important. But even if vocabulary was important, I do not think that it was really given emphasis in our schools and in our colleges and in the universities. I don't think we have really exercised an effort or given an emphasis on how we learn and how we teach vocabulary. So when we're talking about vocabulary, there are certain questions we need to think about and need to reflect upon. And we shall be discussing some of these questions. For example, how many words can provide a working vocabulary in a language? How many words do we really need to know in order to be effectively using a particular language? Maybe English or the mother tongue or whatever language we are using. So how many words can we have in order to be able to use the language effectively? And a second question is, what are the best words to learn first? What are the best words to learn first? And then, are some words more useful than the others? Are some words more difficult than the others? What are the best ways to learn words and to retain words? Is it most practical to learn words as single items, or words in a list, or in pairs, or in context? What about words having different meanings? I think you understand what we mean by that. Even in Khasi, we have words, the same word with different meanings. In English also, we have that. So what about words having different meanings? Should they be avoided? Are some words to be likely to be encountered in spoken rather than in written discourse? So what are the important concerns in vocabulary acquisition? Now, these are some of the pertinent questions that we encounter when we think about vocabulary, teaching, and learning. Now, we will not have the time to cover all these questions, but we shall try and look and see if we can come up with certain solutions, with certain strategies in how we can improve our vocabulary. Now, this concern with the vocabulary control began way back in the 1930s. In the 1930s, it began way back then, when people were really concerned, when practitioners, when language pedagogues, when language teachers were really concerned as to how much is required for a learner to be able to use a language effectively. So it goes back to the time of C.K. Ogden and I.A. Richards. For those who in the language field, maybe you would have heard of I.A. Richards, you've heard of A.K. Ogden. They came up with what is called Basic English. Basic English, that's an acronym. B, capital B, capital A, capital S, capital I, capital C. It's called Basic English. Now, Basic English is really basic, but the acronym stands for British, American, Scientific, International, Commercial. So it's British, American, Scientific, International, Commercial. So the idea of Basic English is that it incorporates some American words, some words from, some British words, some American words, some scientific jargon, some commercial jargon, and some international words that are, relevant internationally. So they came up with this, and they said that for a person to be able to use a language effectively, that particular person does not need to know all the words in the dictionary. So they came up with a proposal that 850 words would be enough, would suffice for people to be able to communicate in a language. So that is an outcome of what we call the vocabulary control movement. So this not only applies to English, it applies to all other languages. So according to I.A. Richards and according to C.K. Ogden, they said that 850 words would suffice for anyone to be able to use a language effectively. And then it went on. Harold Palmer and Michael West. And Michael West is very much known to many of us because he lived in India and he worked in India. And he came up with what is called the General Service List of English Words. Now, Michael West and Palmer suggested that people did not have to have a command of all the words available in that particular language in order to be able to communicate or to use the language effectively. So Michael West and Harold Palmer, suggested that only 2,000 words would be enough for anyone to be able to use a language effectively. So we have heard different versions, and now we have a number of other people coming up with vocabulary control. You have Hindmarsh's Cambridge, the English Lexicon. Then you have MacArthur's Longman Lexicon of Contemporary English. This is for English. But then, we have so many endeavors, we have many efforts from different sources in order to compile the number of words that are being required for a person to use it effectively. And now, how did they come about deciding on what are the important words to be selected in the corpus? Now, the first important criteria is, number one, how frequently is this particular word used? I'll just give you an example, and I've been giving you this example in most of the classes on vocabulary that I've been teaching. So the frequency level of the word. Now, for example, you have different synonyms for a seating place. You have a chair, a stool, a bench, a divan. You have many synonyms of a sitting place. But I think the most common word that we would be willing to use is a chair, rather than a stool, a divan, a sofa, a bench. We would prefer to use a chair. And a chair has a covering power, has a wider covering range of meaning, than a divan or a sofa or a settee. So a chair is simple, a chair is general, a chair covers the meaning of a seating place. So you see the frequency, we use a chair very frequently, and therefore such a word is included in the corpus. And of course, the universality of the word, a chair is understood by many people rather than a settee or a sofa. Many people will not be able to understand what a sofa is. Many people will not be able to understand what a divan is. Many people will not be able to understand what a settee is. But many people can understand what a chair is. And therefore, the universality of the word is important in the selection of that particular word in the corpus. And its utility value. We require chairs everywhere we go. We need a chair to sit on, whether it's at home, whether it's in the office, whether it's in the college or the university or in conferences. We need chairs. And so the utility purpose of the word chair is stronger than a settee or a sofa. So this is how, these people came about deciding that this is a word that should be included in the corpus of vocabulary learning or vocabulary teaching. So it is not easy to say that we're going to learn all the words in the language. It is not difficult. We should be able to decide upon what are the important words that will be meaningful for us. Now, I remembered when I was in school in Pine Mount, that was many, many years ago when we were children in school in Pine Mount. I still remember teachers asking us to buy a vocabulary exercise book. And in the vocabulary exercise book, we were asked to collect 5 new words every day. Doesn't matter where the words come from. The words can come from a newspaper, the words can come from a magazine, the words can come from a textbook, but it was mandatory for each one of us to collect 5 new words every day and put them down in the vocabulary book. And against these words, we had to look up the meanings from the dictionary and write them down next to the words. So 5 new words and the meanings, the dictionary meaning of these words. Now, if we think about the usefulness of this task, it is useful. If we have 5 new words every day for 365 days in a year, we would be having around 1,800 words. 1,800 words. And so by the time we complete our BA or by the time we complete our master's, we would have collected so many words in the vocabulary exercise book. But what I would like to tell you is that that particular exercise was not really meaningful for me because it was a task I had to do. It was a task I had to perform because my teachers had told me to do it. So I did collect the 5 new words every day. And at the end of the year, there were certainly 1,800 words that I had collected with the dictionary meaning of each word. But let me be honest with you, I did not have the opportunity to use these words. Okay, so I collected the words, but I did not have the opportunity to use these words. And I did not remember these words because they were not functional. So it was a kind of an idle task because it really did not help me use these words meaningfully. And therefore, I'm telling you that it is not necessary for us to collect all the, I don't remember a person trying to read up the dictionary from page one, from starting with the alphabet A, trying to read up words with the alphabet A, trying to read up words with the alphabet B. That's a very ambitious thing to do. But then I don't think that would be really meaningful, just as my vocabulary book did not really render any valuable service for me because it was a kind of a mechanical task. I did it just for the sake of satisfying my teacher, but it really had no useful purpose for me. So you see, we should be very, very clear about what are the words we would like to learn. We would like to really understand and what are the words. Now, I would like to tell you is that function words are very important. We have to learn the function words in a language, be it in Khasi, be it in Panar, or be it in whatever language, in English. The function words are very, very important. The content words, which are the nouns and the verbs and the adjectives and the adverbs, we can screen them out, we can sift them. But the function words, the prepositions, all these function words are very, very important for us to understand. And they're not many. Each language has a number of function words, and they have a lot of content words. But the function words are very, very minimal compared to content words. So we should try and learn these function words. Now, let me come back to learning vocabulary and teaching vocabulary. Now, any discussion on vocabulary learning or teaching requires a clear distinction between comprehension and production. Now, comprehension is understanding. Do we understand the words that we are trying to learn? Do we understand the words that the teacher has asked me to collect in my vocabulary? And am I able to produce them? That is why when we're talking about vocabulary, we have 2 important things to consider: comprehension and production. Do we understand the words? And can we use the words meaningfully? So we will first of all look at comprehension. Now, we should try and make our learners understand unfamiliar words. It's important to be able to understand unfamiliar words. They should be able to understand. It is important to be assured that an understanding of all the words and the knowledge of the meanings, of course, is not very important, but we have to know the significance of these unfamiliar words. Now, we can understand the meanings of these unfamiliar words through the context. I have seen teachers, and I've been saying this off and on in the orientation programs, in the teacher training programs that I've conducted, that as teachers, we often have this weakness of asking our students, looking at a particular chapter, a particular lesson, and then we ask the students to underline the difficult words, and then we ask the students to write down or find out the meanings of the difficult words, or even as teachers, we give out the meanings of the difficult words that are found in the text. But I tell you, my dear participants, that is not what you should do. Even as a reader, even as a speaker, even as a teacher, we should not be giving the meanings of these words, because whether it is in spoken discourse or whether it is in a written discourse, the meanings of the words will come out of the context. So the topic of the conversation, the topic of the lesson will be a kind of a clue, will be a kind of a contextual clue to help us understand the meaning of a particular word. So we should not be wasting time looking up the meaning of the word in the dictionary, because the occurrence of that word in a particular context may not have the same meaning of its occurrence in another context. So we should try and understand the meaning of a word from the context. So the topic will help us to understand the meaning of the context. Other words in the discourse, other phrases, other clauses, other sentences, other utterances, parts of the utterances in a spoken discourse or in a written discourse will help us understand the meaning of the word. The grammatical structure will help us to understand the meaning of the word. The intonation in a speech, in a spoken discourse, the tone of our voice will help us understand the meaning of a word. And punctuation, which is also a very neglected, a very neglected aspect of our teaching and our learning. Punctuation is very important, but many students now are not really giving importance to to punctuation. But punctuation is another contextual clue that can give us an information or a kind of an understanding about what the meaning of a word is. So if the teachers are there, my dear teachers, please do not have this habit of asking your students to underline a word, asking them to find the meaning from the dictionary. That will not help them. What will help them is trying to make them understand the meaning of the word from the context. But there are also other exercises that can help us understand contextual clues. Now we can have antonyms, the use of antonyms, the use of synonyms, the use of cause and effect, the use of associations, the use of descriptions, the use of examples, the use of anecdotes. All these can add up to the contextual clues. All right? So synonyms. For example, you have, I went to the bank today and I found that there was no money in the bank. Now, B-A-N-K. Now, in English, we have several meanings to this word. A bank can be the bank of a river. It can be the bank where we deposit our money, but it can also be a kind of a verb. I bank on your help. I bank. It's an idiomatic word. I bank on your help. I bank on your support. So the word bank, B-A-N-K, has several meanings in different contexts. So when I say I'm going to the bank and I found no money in there, that particular phrase, I found no money in there, tells us that I am using the word bank in relation to a place where I deposit the money. Now, I went to the bank and I went to the bank of this particular place, and then I found nobody there. Everybody had gone home. So the word bank there would refer to the bank of a river. And if I say I bank on your support or I bank on your help, it doesn't really imply a place where we deposit money. It implies a support, a kind of a help from somebody. So you see the use of synonyms, the use of antonyms, the use of cause and effect, the use of associations, the use of collocations, the use of descriptions, the use of examples, the use of anecdotes. All these can help us understand the meaning of a word. And then, we can also learn words by understanding the morphology, the word morphology. When we're talking word morphology, we talk of suffixes and affixes. We can really learn words in a way by looking at the root word, the suffixes, and the affixes. So we have agree, we have agreed, agreeable, agreement. All these come from the root agree. So we can use word morphology, that is using suffixes, understanding affixes, to understand or to develop our vocabulary. So number one is when we're using contextual clues in order to help us to understand the meaning of a word, by using word morphology in order to help us understand a word, but also, the conventional practice of learning words is by memorizing words. For example, when you go back to your school days, those who had learned English through the bilingual method, I'm sure you must have been given bilingual word list. One in English, one on one side is the English word, on the other side is the mother tongue, and you have been asked to memorize these words. But not all of us have that capacity to memorize words. We cannot. We don't have that ability to memorize. Now, we can help improve our memory. We can help to improve our ability to memorize words by the use of mnemonic devices. Now, I'll give you the spelling of mnemonic devices. M-N-E-M-O-N-I-C. That is M-N-E-M-O-N-I-C. Mnemonic. Well, you have the alphabet, you have the letter M before N, but the M is silent. So we do not pronounce it as mnemonic, it is pronounced as mnemonic. M-N-E-M-O-N-I-C. Now, when we're talking of mnemonic devices, now what are these mnemonic devices? These mnemonic devices are memory tricks, these strategies we use in order to help us retain information. The memory tricks we use, or the strategies that we use in order to help us retain what we had been introduced. And this is very important for vocabulary learning. Many of us, as I said, cannot memorize words. It's very difficult to memorize words. But we can use this particular strategy of mnemonic devices in order to retain the words that we learn. We can learn words in in groups. For example, how do we remember our mobile numbers? Okay, we remember our mobile numbers by having the area code 94361, 94361, and then 01455. We break it up into chunks. So we don't remember it as a line. We remember it in chunks. So we can use chunking, C-H-U-N-K-I-N-G. We can use chunking or chunking words, dividing words or dividing phrases or dividing clauses into groups in order to help us memorize the information or the input. We can also use acronyms, and this is a very I don't know, it's a very old strategy that maybe people have used, and I have used it myself. As a school child, I had used acronyms in order to help me memorize words, in order to help me memorize information. For example, we all know the example of WIB-YAWN. You know, the colors of the rainbow. WIB-YAWN is the acronym for the colors of the rainbow. So we can also use acronym if we want to memorize certain words or phrases. Or we can use, rhymes. Rhyming is also another strategy by which we can help to remember vocabulary words. Now, for example, I'll give you an example. When did Columbus sail the blue seas? It was in 19. When did Columbus sail the blue? It was in 1942. Something like that. So rhyming, music, acronyms, chunking, all these are strategies that we could use in order to be able to develop our vocabulary. And then we could also use what is called a loci or a memory palace. A loci, L-O-C-I, a loci or a memory palace is a device whereby we link a word to a virtual image in our mind. Now, a particular word, supposing we are learning a new word, we link that word, we associate that word with a kind of an image that we create inside of us. It's a virtual image that we create in our mental processes so that we can help remember a word or the meaning of a word. That is called loci. Now, another way of developing our vocabulary is by using paired associate. A paired associate is also like a loci, a visual image with a new word. For example, in the direct method, we all learned English through the direct method. Most of us had learned English through the direct method. And supposing now this is a mouse. Now you see, even in today's world, now this is called a mouse. Now, a mouse has different meanings, in a conversation, in a written discourse, in our topic this morning. When we're talking of a mouse, we're not talking of a rat. We're talking of a computer mouse. So when we're talking of a mouse, we have to understand from the context, from the topic of the conversation, whether we are referring to an animal or a rodent, or whether we are referring to a tool for use. Now, when we're talking about a mouse, we create a mental image in our minds that a mouse is a tool for use in a laptop or a computer, or a mouse can be a rodent. So we're talking of a visual image. So loci and paired associate is related. We create images so that we can help understand and remember the words that we learned. And we can also learn words by talking about keywords. Keywords will be the root word. I talked about word morphology a while ago. So the keyword will be the root word, and then we can develop the other words. We can develop our vocabulary by linking the suffixes or putting the prefixes and thereby expanding our vocabulary. So this is a concept of vocabulary building through keywords. Now, there are other ways, that we can develop our vocabulary. It's, I'm talking from the point of language teaching approaches. We have the total physical response. Maybe we have not heard about this method, but we know how it is. Now, I'll just give you an example. When we were children, all of us were children once upon a time, and we were very familiar with this particular rhyme. This is the way we wash our teeth, wash our face. This is the way we brush our teeth. This is the way we comb our hair. This is the way we drink our milk. This is the way we wash our hands. This is the way we walk to school. So you see, we have been taught, maybe you didn't realize it then, but the intention of using this particular rhyme is to teach us verbs and to teach us nouns. So this is the way we wash our face, the verb wash and the noun face. This is the way we brush our teeth, the verb brush and the noun teeth. This is the way we wash our hands. This is the way we drink our milk. This is the way we walk to school. This is the way we comb our hair. So that particular method had an objective, and the objective was to help us develop our knowledge of the vocabulary in English. So we learned the verbs wash, drink, comb, walk, and we learned the nouns milk and face and teeth and school. This was how we were taught English, through the direct method. And there are also a lot of approaches that have come up in order to improve on the vocabulary of the learners and the vocabulary of the individuals. We have word families, we have formal groupings, word families, so words belonging to one family, right? So we have chairs, we have stools, we have a settee, we have a divan, we have a sofa. We put the words in one family. That will be better than looking at words in isolation. So word families are also another strategy by which we can develop our vocabulary. So the more we can add up to the keyword to make it a family, to make it a group, that will make us, it'll help us easier to develop our vocabulary and expand the vocabulary, the vocabulary that we have in hand. So using, as I said, word families, using formal groupings. Now, these are very important strategies that we could use in order to develop and expand our vocabulary. So we talked about keywords, we talked about formal groupings, we talked about word families, we talked about word morphology, and we talked about some of the ways in order to help us retain words. And therefore, we talked of mnemonic devices. Mnemonic devices would be, as I said, your, clustering words or chunking words, or we can talk about, I talked about acronyms. We talked about all these strategies can help us really expand our vocabulary. Now, we can also use prefabricated speech. We call these routines in English, routines. And even in Khasi and Panar, we have routines. Now, routines are words or phrases or clauses that have been prefabricated or that have been already prepared beforehand. So, for example, we have polywords like idioms. Our head of the Department of English, Mr. Eftekhar, had used a number of idioms. Now, those are polywords, so idioms, euphemisms, slangs, 2 or 3 part words like put up with. These are polywords or lexical phrases that we could learn, that we could memorize, relevant words that we could use. And then we have phrasal constraints that are short, fixed phrases with slots that permit variation. That means greetings, how do you do? These are canonical, how do you do? And I always tell the people that I talk to, when we meet people and the people ask us, how do you do? Our immediate response should be, how do you do? And not, I'm fine, thank you. Not, I'm fine, thank you. How do you do? The response is, how do you do? And then see you later. Then you have, you can't be serious. You creep, it's a slang. So these are the words that are routines, that are prefabricated. Now, these are called prefabricated speech. Now, it will be important for us not to learn words in isolation only, but also prefabricated speech. It means we would be using when we go to a post office. what would be the required lexical phrases when we go to an airport? What would be the required lexical phrases we would use when we go to a hospital? So it's not about, vocabulary does not just talk about one word. Vocabulary talks about more than one word. So you can learn words, you can learn lexical phrases, which are polywords. You can learn lexical phrases, which are, which are situational utterances, like I've given the example, because sometimes we do not know, even when talking over a telephone, when answering a telephone, when talking on the phone, we are at a loss of words. So even when we're talking on a telephone, when we're answering a telephone, when we're responding to a telephone call, there are certain phrases that we need to learn, we need to memorize. Now, these are called lexical phrases. And so it's not important for us to just learn single words, because vocabulary is not just single words. Vocabulary is more than single words. So they can be multi-words, they can be phrases, they can be utterances. Now, all these are important for us to learn. Now, therefore, I mean, it's very difficult to really talk about what are the different strategies that are really useful. It will differ from individual to individual. As I said, for me, who cannot memorize easily, who cannot retain information in my cognitive processes, it will be very difficult for me to memorize words. But whereas there are some individuals who can really retain words and memorize phrases, now that helps. But I think what is very important for us to understand is that we can use a multiple number of strategies in order to help us improve our vocabulary. So, it would take a long, long time for us, if we have to practice each and every strategy that I've listed for you now. It's going to take a full semester to talk about the different strategies of vocabulary learning and teaching. But some of the important strategies are this, that we need to be open. We need to be open. We need to understand that vocabulary is not just about learning isolated words. We need to learn words and understand their meanings in context. So the situational meaning is very, very important. The contextual meaning is very, very important. And of course, we can use the strategies of using, root words, forming words from the root words. We can learn words from maybe the utterances that we hear people speak, the written discourse that we go through. All these can help us build our vocabulary. But as I said, vocabulary that is stagnant is not really useful. Vocabulary has to be productive. We should be able to make use of the vocabulary we had learned, we had acquired. Only then can it be meaningful. Now, is that kind of question? How much time do I have, Mr. Khan?
Yes, ma'am, you can continue.
All right. So,
you can continue.
As I said, it is important for us to use the dictionary. You should always encourage yourself to carry a pocket dictionary. It is very, very important. But then, if you encounter a word in a text, and if you take a lot of time surfing the meaning of the word in the dictionary, it is going to take a lot of time. So it's going to take away your interest. It is going to take away your motivation. It's going to take away your ability to understand the meaning from the text. So the dictionary is important. It is one way, of course, of expanding, of developing your vocabulary. But I think your actual encounter with words, whether in the spoken or the written discourse, is more relevant, is more important than having a vocabulary book or having a dictionary and, trying to memorize words from a dictionary, trying to memorize words from a vocabulary, because these words, as I said, will not have any sense, will not have any utility purpose if you do not make use of them. So you will have to decide what are the words you would like to learn. you'd have to decide what are the words, that you are learning will be useful for you in written discourse or in spoken discourse. So when you're talking about spoken discourse, I talk about the lexical phrases, the prefabricated speech. You will have to learn these. So how do you do? How are you? See you later. These are routines that we will have to memorize. But apart from that, as I said, we have many other strategies that we could use in order to develop our vocabulary. So we cannot list down everything. As I said, it depends upon the individual. You can use acronyms. I used acronyms for my studies, myself. I use acronyms. I use paired associates. I use collocations. Collocations are important. Collocations are, where you bring in words that are grouped together or that can be used with a particular word. Collocation, for example, we can talk of a convenient time. We can talk of a convenient place, but we cannot talk of a convenient person. Now that will be wrong. So the word convenient cannot collocate a person. And therefore, we should remember that convenient can only collocate or convenient can only combine with inanimate things. It cannot collocate, it cannot associate with animate beings. So we cannot say he's a convenient person. Never. But we can say it's a convenient time, it's a convenient place, it's a convenient purpose. We can say that. So that's why I'm telling you, learning words in isolation can be very, very dangerous. We have to learn words in the context. We have to learn word in relation to the situation. Only then can your vocabulary learning be meaningful. So, as I said, it will take a long, long time for us to discuss on each of the strategies that I have listed. But I think this is just an overview of how we can help ourselves improve our vocabulary. You can go ahead and encourage yourself to get a vocabulary exercise book and collect the 5 new words every day and look up the dictionary meanings. But the words that you collect, the words that you pen down in your vocabulary book will have to be words that have a utility purpose, that are meaningful. Otherwise, that vocabulary book will just have to be filed away. That vocabulary exercise book will just be put away in your shelves, and it does not really make sense. So, these are some of the strategies that we could look at in order to improve our vocabulary. Now, I have a question from, can I take this question, please?
Yes, please go ahead. Please.
Yeah, this is from Pinchan Langbang. My question is, do you agree that using words which are too technical is like neglecting groups and individuals who are literate and uneducated? For example, when we look at the original version of the fundamental rights of the Indian Constitution, we find it is very difficult for a layman to understand. It is said to understand them is a lawyer's paradise. Therefore, how will we fill this gap to use words which will serve the interest of all? That is a very important question indeed. And I always believe in simplicity. I always believe that the more simple the more simple you are in your choice of diction, the more simple you are in the choice of the sentence structure, that is very important. We can't escape this, because different domains have different jargons. So, for example, in the newspaper jargon, you have journalese, and these are jargons specific to that particular discourse, to that particular domain. In the legal discourse, you have words, legalese, it's called. You have words that are specific to that particular legal discourse. And therefore, using technical jargon can be very, very irritating. Technical jargon can be very disturbing. So I think this will require a specific kind of an understanding, but I'm talking about everyday use. I'm talking about everyday writing. When we write for everyday, for assignments, for academic purposes, when our professional purposes, when we talk to people, I think the choice of simple words and diction, the choice of simple vocabulary would be more appreciated than using bombastic difficult words. No, I don't agree with that. So I fully understand your frustration there. But I think somebody will have to really summarize, will have to simplify the fundamental rights for the ordinary layman in order for the layman to understand. Yes, Pinchyan, have I asked a question for you? I agree with you. I fully agree with you. But as I said, different discourse, different domains have their own specialized jargon, and it is not expected for each one of us to understand. Yes, Mr. Dakar, do we have questions? I mean, I think I finished my talking.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, till now we don't have any question yet, but there is one. Actually, it is not a question; it is a comment. The comment is like this: I think reading is a sure way of building up our student vocabulary.
Yes.
It is a comment.
Right. It is. I agree with that. That, you can improve your vocabulary, you can improve your word power by reading. And it's not just reading textbooks, it's not reading course books. It's reading magazines, it's reading novels, it's reading stories. That is what I tell my, English honors students when I was in college, that you don't have to, it's important for you to read your course books. It is important, but it is also very important for you to read books outside the course. So you can read novels, you can read magazines, you can read newspapers, you can read anything that is written, or you can listen to the news being read over the television, you can listen to the radio. These are different ways by which you can improve your vocabulary power. Yes, I agree with you. Reading is a very important means of learning. Can these strategies be used even for a child? Certainly, why not? Why not? Also use, help a child listen, help a child read, in order to help the child develop his vocabulary. Yes, expose the child as much as possible to the target language. If it's English, or if it's in Khasi or Panar, expose the child to good language. That can really expand the vocabulary of the child. Any more questions, please?
Yes, participants, you can post your question if you have any.
We need, I wish we could have a workshop on vocabulary learning and teaching. It would be more meaningful, because in 1 hour to talk about the different strategies would be extremely difficult, because we need to look at each strategy and have, an exercise on that. Only then can we make sense of what we are talking about. Because each strategy will have tasks. We should have tasks alongside the strategies that has been listed, in order to see whether these strategies can really help us improve our vocabulary.
Okay, yes, ma'am. We have another question from Panchungan Langpeng. It has been said that even language has been globalized and internationalized. So how will we bring the significance of local dialect?
That is a very difficult one. We talk of loan words, we talk of borrowed words. But I don't know whether we are allowed. Of course, maybe we can be allowed to use borrowed words from Khasi or Panar into English if the situation demands. Yes, and we have this code switching. It's called code switching, right? Code switching. I think David would know it well. We have this thing of code switching. We carry on words from one language to the other when we speak. Even the tags. For example, if I'm Khasi, I would use a tag at the end, more. Okay, you understand more. So it's borrowing from Khasi into the target language which I'm speaking, which is English. So there is this concept of borrowing words and loan words and code switching and code mixing. Yeah, there is a possibility if we require a word and we do not have, the word at our command at that particular time when we're using the target language. I'm sure we could, if we have a homogeneous group, I'm sure we could use, our home language in order to make the situation comfortable. I'm sure we can do that. But it has to be, a group that understands. Otherwise, it will be difficult.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. I know it's a very tough to answer that. You see, the sea of knowledge and wisdom is something which you have to relish with it. Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for that question. I hope it answers Mr. Penshkai Lang Bang. Okay. Next question we have is, can you kindly suggest books to read on vocabulary?
Yes. I talked about Michael West, the General Service List of English Words. If you want to learn English, you can look up Michael West, General Service List of English Words. You can look up the thesaurus, thesaurus. When I talked about Ogden and I talked about Michael West, they collected these words manually. That means they sat together and manually decided that this word is more important than the other word. But now it's been computerized. This selection of words has been computerized. And therefore, we have the COBILD dictionary, where you have not only the meaning of words, but you also have the uses of these words. The thesaurus, you can look up the thesaurus. That will also help you build your vocabulary. The thesaurus, the COBILD, all these will help you build up your vocabulary.
Yes, ma'am. Since this webinar is live in YouTube, from YouTube we have one question. The question is, how important is good English pronunciation in building English vocabulary? I repeat the question. How important is good English pronunciation in building English vocabulary?
Well, pronunciation is something else and vocabulary is something else. Pronunciation is, relating to spoken discourse. When you pronounce words correctly, that is very important as well. When you're talking of spoken discourse, when you're talking of pronunciation, you're talking in terms of spoken discourse. And yes, it is important to have a good pronunciation, but we cannot guarantee that all of us will have a good pronunciation because we are not native speakers of the language. We are second language speakers. And therefore, because we are second language speakers, we cannot afford to speak like the native speaker. But it is indeed important if we can develop a good pronunciation. It is, of course, it is important. But vocabulary is something else. Vocabulary is word. Okay? So to be able to pronounce words is important, correctly. But we are talking in terms of two things. We're talking in terms of spoken discourse, and we were talking of vocabulary. We're talking of both spoken discourse and written discourse. All right? But as I said, I do agree that if we can, it is important to also develop our pronunciation, because if we mispronounce words, we can land ourselves in many kinds of uncomfortable situations. But it is important to have a good pronunciation.
Yes, ma'am. Again, from YouTube viewers, there is, I know it is similar, but I'll just read part of the question. What is the best way to improve our vocabulary? The best way to improve our vocabulary?
Reading.
I guess, yeah.
Reading. Reading.
Yes.
The more you read, the more you improve. The more you can add up to your vocabulary. Because as you read, you encounter new words almost every time. So as we encounter new words and as you try to understand these words within context, you improve your vocabulary. So reading is very important.
Okay. Okay, for your information, there are so many viewers from, I think, because the Google Meet is unable to accommodate all the participants. There are some from YouTube also. So these questions are from YouTube. Now we have one question from Sibon Tinarkha. Question is, what is the most important strategy for rural teachers to help their students to improve in English?
Okay. So number one is that teachers should encourage their students to read, number one. Number two is that teachers should speak to the students in English. And number three is that teachers should encourage students to interact between each other using English. That is the only way you can improve. Because reading grammar books, reading books without using it will not make sense. So interacting, communicating, using the language is very important. So teachers should not be embarrassed. Teachers should not be shy. Teachers should speak in the class, outside the class to their students in English. They should also encourage students to interact with one another in English while they are in the campus. You should be strict. If in there on the campus, they should always use English. Only then can they improve. Asking them to read, asking them to learn grammar, to read up grammar, teaching grammar will not help. Teaching poetry, teaching prose, teaching the novel, telling you will not help them improve their English. It's only through using the language. And using the language means interacting, communicating, talking to one another in English, listening to the news in English, reading to everything that is in English, newspapers, magazines, listening to the news in English, listening to the NDTV news, listening to the BBC news, to the CNN. All these will help students. I think we all have access to the television, isn't it? Right? So these are the ways. I mean, that is how I learned English. I did not learn English from grammar books. I did not learn English by reading Charles Dickens. I did not learn English by reading Wordsworth and Shakespeare. I learned English by listening and by using the language. That is how I learned English. So, you know, sometimes when the Khasi students are together or the Panar students are together, or the Bengali students are together, they speak in the mother tongue. They can when they're outside the classroom, but inside the classroom, in the college campus, you should encourage the use of the target language. That is the only way you can improve your English.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am, for your answer. I hope it answer the question posted by Sibon Tinadkar. And I hope for now there is no more question. And in case anyone want to post, please do so, because it's already an hour. So if you don't have any more queries, we can wind up. And
I think it's more than 1 hour, isn't it?
yeah, it is more than that. Actually, we start late, so in spite of that, it's more than an hour. So in case you don't have any more queries, I would like to thank all of you, especially our resource person. I can feel that she is thirsty also. She have talked so much from the very beginning, and ma'am, we are looking forward to meeting you once again, especially the one which you suggest, maybe a 1-2 days seminar. Let's see what the situation, as per the situation right now, we cannot do that. If the situation permits, we are more than happy to welcome you as our resource person, and as a family, we can count you as a family also, because thank you very much, ma'am, for those delightful and very important suggestion. And hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because of the network problem. If I am not audible, please don't mind. Okay, I think we will wind up here, and before we wind up, I would like to straight away call Miss Afinda. If you are there and if you can hear me, please give us a word of thanks so that we can wind up this webinar.
Okay, hello. Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity to deliver a word of thanks from the department, on behalf of the department. Thank you, all of you, for staying till this time, more than 1 hour. Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank our Almighty God for giving us good health and for protecting us, for keeping us safe, so that we can be here seeing each other face to face in front of the camera. All right, I would like to thank first of all our number one pillar, that is our dear principal, Dr. Pinong Tutu. So we thank you so much for encouraging us, for supporting us in organizing this webinar. Sir, you have been there always. And so, sir, thank you so much for the warm welcome speech. And now I would like to extend my thanks to our Vice Principal, that is Dr. Ding Do. Sir, you have given us a word of light. You have highlighted about the importance of vocabulary, that especially for us teachers, learners, and students, it's very important that we learn and expand more of our vocabulary. Okay, and now I would like to extend from the parts of the department a big thank you to our ma'am, Professor T.K. Baman. Ma'am, you have been like our family to us, and yes, we felt the warmth from you. And so we thank you for your availability uh, to be with us here today, and we thank you so much for accepting our humble plea to be our resource person. Ma'am, we are really blessed today, and your words are wonder to us, and we thank you for teaching us more and more. In fact, we have never realized some of the importance of those techniques, that how we could expand our vocabulary. And so you remind us once again today that yes, grouping, example like how we can memorize our phone numbers, those simple things, but they are very, very important. And I really hope that all the students are really benefited, and our colleagues are really benefited from your words. And yes, you are a blessing to us, ma'am. And I can say that not only to us listening to you, and I believe that you are a blessing to this generation, for all of us. And so, yes, I hope we will all go home with a bundle of new knowledge, new ideas, and new information regarding vocabulary. Next, I would like to extend my thanks to our host, our HOD, who is also our motivator. So thank you so much for encouraging us, for dragging the department, so to say. So thank you so much for your hard work. We really respect your hard work, and God bless you, sir. All right, now I would like to also extend my thanks to Sir Nifrina Rambai, our Sir Nishwa Rambai, Sir B. Papang. So thank you so much for your help and support in technical work. And we really appreciate your work, sir. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. Okay, now, so I would like to extend my thanks also to my dear colleagues of the Department of English. Thank you so much for your devotion. You have worked so hard, and yes, thank you for staying as a team and for working as a team. Okay, now I would also like to extend my thanks to not only to our department, yes, to all the colleagues, to my colleagues from the other departments. You have been cheering us, you have been inspiring us every time, and we love you from the Department of English. And yes, we'll continue to support each other. Okay, and so I would like to lastly, I think I would like to thank all the participants. Without you, this wouldn't be complete. All our preparation would be in vain. So thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that you are really blessed. And we also hope that you have enjoyed listening to ma'am, even though it already passed 1 hour, but it didn't feel like that. Okay, so because we have learned so much. So I hope you are really blessed, and we hope to see you again next time sharing our knowledge. Okay, so I think that's all. I just want to say once again, thank you all, and God bless you and keep you safe till we get over COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Afinda, for your word of thanks. And last but not the least, I would love to thank myself also. Thank you, Pastor Bon, for organizing this program. And Dr. David Dingdo also, I would like to thank you in a very special way. You see, the whole arrangement, we are unable to meet face to face, myself and our Professor TK Baman. It is through Sir David, who is a messenger, a vice principal, a counselor. I don't know what else to say. Thank you very much, Sir David, and thank you all of you. And once again, Madam TK Baman, I would like to say something. I want you to remember this. You are like a candle in the darkness for all of us. Thank you for lighting the darkness. Thank you very much, ma'am. And I think we can end here. And the light refreshment and the heavy refreshment, you please have it in your own house.
One moment.
Yeah.
One moment.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Myself, firstborn, the car. You are very young, but I saw the foundation has been built in you. And you'll be the future star of this area. And also, I am very happy that you have got the energy to carry on with your job. And I hope that the young generation will be blessed because some of the youths like you has come up to be in this level. And also, Madam TK Baman, thank you very much for what you have taught us is very effective talk that you have given to us, and we appreciate that. And we are hoping that someday we'll be meeting again. And also, my dear Principal Dr. Pinatulu, where are you? Can you hear me? Dr. Pinatulu. So anyway, I give my regards also to our principal. Very sportive. He is very strong principal, and I wish he will grow healthy. He will stay young forever so that this college will move on to be one of the international known university or college in the times to come. So from my side, I thank you for all the questions who has given by the participants, and those questions has helped us to open our minds to meet other level of horizons in the matter of improving our vocabulary. Thank you. This is from me.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sir David. Before I end, lastly, before I end, in case our patron, as I have said, that he is our angel, Dr. Permission, in case you want to say anything, please do so, and I will immediately wind up the program or the webinar.
Okay, once
Yes,
again, I thanks Kong Bamon for this special times and wonderful information and the informative session and all the participants. And thank you all. And some participants also say congrats Jaintia Eastern College, and thank you for that. We are working hard to do more webinar of this type. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I declare the webinar closed for today. And in case you want to discuss anything now, it is not official anymore. You can openly discuss anything.
Please do.
Okay.
Please do
Oh,
your
yes,
feedback.
yes, yes. Oh, yes, sorry, I forgot regarding the feedback form. You please, all the participants, I request you to please fill up the feedback form. We will give you time for half an hour to fill up the feedback form. Okay, before 1 hour, I think you can finish it. So for half an hour, we will leave it open. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Exactly.